Do a clap. Hi, my name is Nick Capodice, and this is a video to tell you how to use Civics 101, the podcast, in your classroom. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to listen to our podcast, lesson plans and activities that teachers from across the country and we have made to pair with our podcast episodes, and number 3, tips from teachers and best practices on using podcasts in the classroom. Jason Stern, Shaunie Decker, and Liz Melahn are members of our cabinet, and they're going to share some of their favorite tips and tricks. Number 1, how to listen to the show. Most of our listeners listen on their smartphone. If you have an iPhone, you probably already have an Apple Podcasts app. Just type Civics 101 in there, and Bob's your uncle. You can also listen on Spotify. However, if you're not going to be listening privately to yourself and you're listening in a classroom setting, we recommend listening on our website, civics101podcast.org. And why? Well, I'll tell you why. On every episode page, we feature resources that are connected to the episode. We have transcripts of every episode that are time-stamped so you can read them in advance and know how to jump around. And we chunk it. We cut each episode into sort of manageable hunks, 2 to 3 minutes each, that you can listen to in class and maybe assign the rest of it for homework. Number 2, lesson plans and supports for our episodes in the classroom. If you go to our website and click on the For Educators tab, you're going to be brought to a page that has everything that we've made for teachers. Every episode that we make has a graphic organizer. It's sort of a listen-along guide for students to take notes upon while they listen to the episode. And on the back side is a large, broad discussion question that students can talk about in class after they've heard the episode. If you click the Lesson Plans tab, you'll be brought to a page that has lesson plans created by members of our cabinet. Those are teachers from across the country who have designed these to go with our podcast episodes. These lesson plans vary in grade level from 6th to 12th grade, in length from 1 class to 3. If you click the Activities page, those are about 30 short, fun quizzes, activities, things that Hannah and I made to pair with our episodes. And in the true spirit of federalism, we've got some states. We have gone through for Massachusetts and Illinois so far, but more coming down the pike, and paired episodes and lesson plans to the state standards for those states. And finally, number 3, tips for using our podcast in the classroom. I could natter on all day about this, but I think I'll leave it to the experts, because you don't have to take my word for it.
Hello, my name is Jason Stern, and I'm a teacher at Saucon Valley Middle School. I just wanted to tell you how I use the Civics 101 podcast in my classroom. One of the things I like to do in my classroom is, after giving students an introduction to a topic, is to have them have some choice on what specifically they would like to further investigate. And that's one of the best things about Civics 101. They give you hundreds of podcasts that students can choose from. So if they want to learn more about the nuclear codes, or about court cases, or about protesting, or about money, they have the ability to go access that and come back and teach the class and teach me a little bit about it. So I really like to use this for student choice, to have them further investigate topics that are interesting to them. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Shaunie Decker, and I'm a civics and government instructor at Green River College. One of my goals as an instructor is to bring the abstract ideas and principles behind civic engagement and government, and to make them tangible for my students. Using podcasts helps me to do that. As we find ourselves in COVID, I have found that I have to use a hybrid model, and using a podcast allows me to do this in a flipped model. I have my students watch the podcast ahead of class with a list of questions for them to consider as they're watching. Then, when they return to class, we talk about the video together, so they come to the class with the information that they need, and we can spend the time on rich discussion. Using podcasts helps to increase the amount of context around this new principle or idea that we're discussing in class. It also allows us to look at specific case studies and can even lead to debate. I found that using podcasts leads to richer class discussion.
Hi there, my name is Liz, and I'm a high school social studies teacher in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm here to talk to you about how I use podcasts in my classroom. I love using podcasts. As a social studies teacher, it's a way for me to bring guest speakers in or take my students on a field trip, and I know exactly what to expect because I can pre-listen to the podcast. I think they provide a lot of great information. And one of the challenges that I found is that sometimes students struggle to pay attention. One of the traditional ways we ask students to pay attention is to take notes while they're listening. And I think graphic organizers are a really natural way for that to happen. Problem is, kids aren't super interested in graphic organizers. And if they're not great at listening and not great at graphic organizers, it's going to present a problem and they're not going to get out of it what we hope that they do. So in my classroom, often when we listen to podcasts, we do something called art notes. So I pass out paper, often what I call dot paper. So it's just white paper with little gray dots all over it. It's nice because students can write in lines if they want, or they can draw if they want, but it helps give them a guide for nice straight lines and things. So you give them some dot paper, and then we choose a specific style of art or doodling, and then create notes within that. So one example is a Polaroid note sheet. So we talked about Polaroid pictures and looked up some images, and I explained my experience as a kid with Polaroids. And then as we listen to a podcast, students take notes about the content and create these drawings and sketches as they go. So some of them are really organized, some of them are a little bit more free-flowing, but thinking about adding an image with their text helps them listen. When we're done with this, it's really neat to see what all the students have created, and it gives us a great platform on which to discuss what we heard. So I hope this helps in your classroom, and happy listening.
And lastly, just some tips some teachers have shared with me throughout the years. If you can, have your students go outside. Have them take a walk and listen to an episode instead of listening to it in class, if you can. One New Hampshire teacher shared with me that he plays the first minute of a podcast episode in class, sort of as a teaser, and then lets the students finish it on their own by the end of the week. And if you've made it this far, and you are an educator who has tips for using not just our podcast, but other podcasts in the classroom, send them my way. Also, feel free to email me any episode requests, any topics that we haven't covered that you think could use a podcast in the classroom. All right, keep being civil. Or not. It's up to you. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be civil if you're mad about something.